To anyone who just joined, thank you so much for joining our Santa Clara County Climate Candidate Forum hosted by Silicon Valley Youth Climate Action. We are super excited to have you. Okay, we are going to go ahead and get started. I am super excited to pass it to Catherine.
Good afternoon, everyone. And this is the Santa Clara County Climate Candidate Forum hosted by Silicon Valley Youth Climate Action. Thank you for joining. My name is Catherine Park, and I will be your moderator for the District 5 Candidate Forum. Silicon Valley Youth Action is a youth-led nonprofit dedicated towards combating climate change and its effects through advocacy and education. This candidate forum will be focusing on sustainability and the climate crisis and the ideas and plans candidates have to support sustainability in Santa Clara County. The virtual event is nonpartisan and all candidates from District 2 and 5 were invited. Before we start, this forum would also like to acknowledge the global and national devastation of climate change-fueled events such as Hurricane Helene, but is focused on what we can do locally to implement climate solutions. All right, next, I would like to start with thanking our partners. To begin, thank you to our promoting partners, Greentown Los Altos, Carbon Free Mountain View, 350 Silicon Valley, De Anza College, VIDA, and Actura. I would also like to thank all of our Santa Clara County candidates for being here and participating. All right. The map above, which was taken from the county website, shows each of the 5 districts in Santa Clara County. In this election, county supervisors for Districts 2 and 5 Board of Supervisors will be decided. County supervisors are a 4-year long-term position responsible for the county's programs, departments, as well as approving the county budget. This evening, we'll be hosting both candidates for the District 5 Forum, Margaret Abe-Koga and Sally J. Lieber, and one of the 2 candidates for the District 2 Forum, Betty Dong. The other candidate, Madison Nguyen, was invited but unable to attend. All right, this is our schedule. We will be starting with the District 5 candidates and then moving on to District 2. In each section, we will start with a short introduction and we'll be asking 4 to 5 questions for each candidate that were not shared beforehand. For District 5's forum, we will be alternating between who will go first. We should have time for several audience questions per section, so please start thinking of them. During the portion, please enter your questions using the Q&A feature, and we will also end with a closing statement. All right. District 5 represents Palo Alto, Mountain View, Cupertino, Saratoga, Los Altos, and Los Gatos. It is home to Shoreline Park, Stanford University, and Rancho San Antonio, among others. In this section, the candidates will have a 2-minute introduction, 90 seconds to answer each of the questions, and 1 minute for closing. We will have 4 to 5 questions that we will ask today, alternating between who will go first. These questions were not shared to the candidates beforehand. If time allows, we will also take questions from the audience, so please start thinking of your questions. There are 2 candidates running for this position, Councilmember Margaret Abe-Koga and Sally J. Lieber. First up is the 2-minute introduction. Good evening, esteemed candidates running for District 5. We invite each of you to introduce yourselves to the forum and share a bit about your vision for our community. You will each have up to 2 minutes to introduce yourselves. Please begin with your name and pronouns. We will start with Councilmember Margaret Abe-Koga. Whenever you're ready, please begin.
Thank you. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate this forum and for you taking time out to have us. I am Margaret Abe-Koga. She, her are my pronouns, and I am currently a Mountain View City Council member serving my fourth term, 16th year, my final year. I was mayor twice, first during the Great Recession of 2008. I was mayor in 2009. So I led the city out of a budget deficit, and we've had surpluses ever since. And then the second time I was mayor in 2020 during the COVID pandemic. So I have certainly experienced leadership during crisis. But in addition to my council work, I serve on a number of regional bodies, including the Bay Area Air Quality Management District, and then on transportation at the Metropolitan Transportation Commission, the Valley Transportation Authority, VTA, and the Caltrain Board. And I'm also have been, and currently an alternate, but have been on the Silicon Valley Clean Energy Board, Authority Board. The Clean Energy Authority is something that I was able to help start by obtaining seed money from our city of Mountain View to do the original feasibility study that led to the creation. I've also been on the Regional Water Quality Control Board. I was appointed by Governor Brown. So as you can tell by my assignments, the climate change is a big priority of mine, and it comes from a personal place. I have two daughters who are now in college, our Gen Z daughters, and they're the ones who remind me every day how important it is for us to combat climate change. So I really appreciate all of you, our youth, and your leadership in this issue, your activism, and your continuing to remind us how important it is that we do what we can to fight climate change. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Abe-Koga. Now we'll hear from Sally Lieber. Please begin when you're ready.
Thank you. I really appreciate the organizers for putting this forum together. This is the most critical issue of our lives, frankly. I have very deep experience in government, having served as a city council member and mayor in the city of Mountain View. I served as a county commissioner for Santa Clara County, did 3 terms in the state legislature. I've served on regional boards, including the Valley Transportation Authority, the San Francisco Bay Restoration Authority, and the Moffett Restoration Advisory Board. I currently serve on the State Board of Equalization, and I chair that board. So I am also on the Franchise Tax Board, 2 boards that have a lot to do with funding the efforts of county government. Some of the areas that I've focused on in my government service are obtaining incentive funds for green schools, energy efficient, resource efficient schools, creating the San Francisco Bay Restoration Authority to deal with the impact of sea level rise, bay level rise, and groundwater rise. I authored the legislation to keep all cars in smog check and not exempt them at the time when they're most likely to become polluting vehicles. I've worked on indoor air quality and was able to obtain additional incentives for hybrid cars, electric cars, and up the trade-in value of polluting cars that are reaching the end of their life. So I am definitely motivated to see everything that we can possibly do take on this issue that is for us an existential one.
Thank you. All right, next we'll be moving on to our question part of the forum. Our first question is, due to the high environmental cost of personal vehicles, public transport is important to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. What are your plans to promote ridership on the county's transit options such as Caltrain, BART, VTA buses, and light rail? We will start with Sally Lieber, whenever you're ready.
Thank you. Well, I'm very glad to see that VTA ridership is recovering from the pandemic levels and is once again well used. It's very much within the, I think, 1.5% difference from what it was during the pandemic. And I would like to see a decrease in fares for Caltrain. The electrification of Caltrain makes it a much better ride. And that's been a change that has been coming since the 2010 era. And I think that we need to look at the quality and usability of all of our modes of transit. I think that one of the things that has really helped Caltrain is that the long fight for Wi-Fi on Caltrain finally resulted in that being available. The new BART cars are very usable and comfortable. I think that there are small fixes that could be done to VTA to ensure that the rider is provided with a quiet and safe and clean ride, and that goes for light rail as well. So I think the good news is that transit is back, and we just have some fine tuning to do.
Thank you. All right, we'll now hear from Councilmember Abe-Koga, whenever you're ready.
Thank you. Well, this is certainly a very important and favorite topic of mine. I've spent most of my 16 years on the city council serving on one of these transportation authorities. I'm now on the trifecta of, as I mentioned, MTC, VTA, and Caltrain. And so ridership has been something that we've been really working on, you know, in terms of getting it back to pre-pandemic levels. I'm really excited that VTA's ridership is back to getting close to that. Caltrain, we just opened electrified service, and so I hear and I see that people are taking it. I was able to try it out the first day, and it's really a wonderful ride. And to be able to ride with clean transportation is just fantastic. But what I really want to see, and this is something that I'd like to do if I have 12 years at the county, is it's a lofty goal, but I really want to fix transit and get it to a point where it's frequent, accessible, easy to use. And the more immediate improvements that we can make, and we're starting to do that, is making it safer, making the cars cleaner. And then even with like the Clipper card, we're still working on it, but making it usable and accessible, that you can get it anywhere at your grocery store, so you don't have to go finding it. Frequency, I think, is really the key. If you can get to 10, 15-minute headways, and VTA has a plan for that, I think people will start riding it because it'll be more usable. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now be moving on to our next question. So, given the recent heat waves, what are your ideas on how to increase the county's resilience towards climate change-fueled natural disasters, such as heat waves, wildfires, floods, and droughts? We will start with Councilmember Abe-Koga, whenever you're ready.
So we really need to work on lowering our GHG emissions. I think that is key to fighting climate change and reversing some of these effects like we're seeing now with this heat wave. As I mentioned, I've been a part of Silicon Valley Clean Energy, and we've worked hard and have seen great results in reducing GHG emissions from where we source our energy. The other areas are building electrification. I led the charge in 2019 for REACH codes, and in Mountain View, we passed a requirement of all electric new building. Unfortunately, because of legal challenges, we've had to put that on hold, but we're looking for alternative ways to get to that point. And then we talk about transportation. That's the other big area. And so electrifying transportation as well. But in terms of resilience, in Mountain View, we have a sea level rise action plan that we've been working on for over 10 years now. At the Air District, when the wildfires were prevalent, we worked and were able to get some federal funding to start these clean air centers. And we're now trying to work to combine that with cooling centers that we see during heat waves, so it becomes one in the same. So those are some of the ideas we have. Thanks.
Thank you. We'll now be hearing from Lieber, whenever you're ready.
Thank you. one of the most important things that we can be doing is to orient housing towards where transit and jobs and services are available. We need to reduce the number of miles that people are traveling. Um, we also have to look at some of the immediate term impacts of climate change. I authored the legislation to create the Bay Restoration Authority and passed a 9 Bay Area county measure to fund restoration of the Bay to restore our Bay wetlands as our shock absorbers of rising sea level and bay level. And we need to be very, very focused on groundwater rise. And this is something that there hasn't been a lot of discussion of, but we need to think more about because groundwater rise can push toxic plumes closer to where we draw our drinking water from. And that's a very, very serious issue. In terms of heat waves, we're many trees short on what we should be as a community. And I think throughout Santa Clara County, the minimum number of new cared for trees that we need is about 30,000. I personally have been funding some of the new trees, and we need to get everyone into the game and have homeowners and others take advantage of the free trees that are out there.
Thank you. We will now be moving on to our next question, which is, as a county supervisor, how would you promote the transition from natural gas to clean energy in buildings throughout the county? We will be starting with Sally Lieber, whenever you're ready.
Thank you. Well, I was very heartened to see the Board of Supervisors up the game for the county this past winter and say that we're going to set a date of 2030 instead of 2045 in terms of transition for building commissioning and other strategies that we're going to be pursuing. I think that the buildings are really ground zero for the efforts that the county can make. I think we also need to really look at the fossil fuel content of the materials that we're using throughout the county facilities and also in the community in terms of artificial turf and other things, the use of plastics within the county. But there's an enormous amount of benefit that can be reaped through looking at the commissioning of buildings such as the county hospitals, the air conditioning that takes place there. And at the state level, I was able to create a pot of money for green schools. We also need to do that with every government building, make sure that we have that we are resource efficient, energy efficient, fresh air ventilated, and day lit to the greatest extent possible.
Thank you. All right. Now, Councilmember Abe-Koga, when you're ready.
Yes, I'm very excited that the county has chosen to move towards carbon neutrality by 2030. And as mentioned earlier, in terms of electrification, we've worked really hard through clean energy. I mentioned the REACH codes that I led to require all new buildings to be electric. I know the county is has embarked on an effort to electrify all of their county buildings, but the question is county-wide, so we need to continue to move forward and try to frankly get around this legal challenge and one of the strategies we're looking at is requiring pre-wiring so that eventually, because at the air district that I sit on, I was able to vote on a rule to ban the replacement of gas appliances by 2029. And so that's coming up. So we do need to electrify by then. The real challenge is the existing buildings and how to retrofit them. There's, can be costly. And so we've been working to provide funding at Silicon Valley Clean Energy. We have grants at the Air District. We have grants. Hopefully the federal funding that's come down will continue so that we can help people electrify and transition over. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. And now for our final prepared question. Since youth have a high stake in climate issues, how do you plan to work with and involve youth in achieving the county's and your climate priorities? We'll start with Councilmember Abe-Koga. Whenever you're ready.
Thank you. Yes, I really appreciate all of you and your leadership. And I was inspired as a 17-year-old in high school. I met my future boss, then San Mateo County Supervisor Anna Eshu, who's now a congresswoman. And so I really value being involved, getting involved, having youth involvement. And so actually, when I worked for the congresswoman, I was in charge of starting her student advisory council. And so that's what I would really like to do, is just replicate something like that and include our young people, your voices in our decision making. At the city council, we had a youth advisory group, which was kind of a loose group. And when I was on the council in my first couple of years, we elevated that group to now a committee. So it's a formal advisory committee, and just really impressed with the work that our young folks do there. So my goal is to continue at the county level and creating certain bodies like that. Working with your organization is key, and also providing mentorship opportunities, internship opportunities to have young people be able to experience what policy making is like and what government is like, and hopefully encourage all of you to maybe look at public service as something, career or path for folks. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Koga. Abe-Koga. All right, now we'll move on to Sally Lieber, whenever you're ready.
Well, thank you so much. I think it's absolutely essential that youth be integral to the efforts on climate priorities, prioritization, and be given all of the relevant information and data about implementation, and that youth who are part of the process know the key dates when their pressure can be most effective on public policy decision making. When I was in the state assembly, we had the largest number of youth from our local programs like APOLI who were in our office, and we're doing really meaningful and important work. A couple of the projects that they started in 2006 are still going on today. So youth can really make a difference, and indeed, they're the most effective voices. I started the Youth Advisory Council in the city of Mountain View, and also started the Spanish language CERT emergency program that became the Spanish Language Leadership Academy. But I think that youth across the board and youth from diverse backgrounds with lived experience make the best advocates in the process.
Thank you. We'll now be transitioning to audience Q&As. So our first question will be from Cynthia Fan. So she has a question for all candidates, and it's, in January, right after someone takes office, the Santa Clara County Board of Supervisors will be deciding whether to continue installing plastic grass on county-owned properties. Many residents, including Cynthia Fan, have concerns about the environmental impacts of plastic turf. What is your position on the use of plastic grass on county properties? And how would you advocate for safe condition high-use natural grass playing fields at the county fairgrounds? We will start with Sally Lieber, whenever you're ready.
Thank you for this question. It is so important that we all support a ban on artificial turf. That is a petroleum product. So at every stage in its manufacturing and use, it is toxic to humans. And I think it's essential that we make the decisions at the board to stop using artificial turf altogether. We know that artificial turf sheds microplastics that get into storm drains, become a part of our bay, and become a part of the food system. Artificial turf also includes the forever chemicals that have such a detrimental impact on human health. This is one thing that we can do. We can stop buying it, stop using it, and go instead to natural grass, which actually takes less water than artificial turf. Artificial turf has to be wet down to clean it. It has to be wet down to cool it off, to be able to have people using it as a playing surface. And so we have absolutely got to stop artificial turf for all of these reasons and stop the profligate use of plastics, which are a petroleum product across the board.
Thank you. Now it will be Councilmember Abe-Koga's turn. But I just wanted to repeat the question since it was quite long. So in January, right after someone takes office, the Santa Clara County Board of Supervisors will be deciding whether to continue installing plastic grass on county-owned properties. Many residents, including myself, have concerns about the environmental impact of plastic turf. What is your position on the use of plastic grass on county properties? And how would you advocate for safe condition, high-use natural grass playing fields at the county fairgrounds? Whenever you're ready.
Thank you. Yes, so I support the ban of artificial turf, and it was actually supposed to come to the County Board of Supervisors, I think about a month ago, but they delayed it. So should I be elected, I guess I'll have a chance to weigh in on that. But I've actually always been against artificial. I prefer natural turf. And so in the city of Mountain View, when we were rebuilding a baseball field to also serve as a flood basin, we had this debate, and I advocated for natural turf, which is what we have there. Back then, it was about injuries, that artificial turf can create more injuries for the folks playing on the fields. But the argument for artificial was that it would cost less and less maintenance and whatnot. But the new data, the more recent data, is showing to be the opposite of that. So I feel that my position that I've had from the beginning of being against artificial turf is being strengthened. So that's where I land on this issue. Thanks.
All right, thank you. So that concludes the questions for District 5 candidates. On the screen are shown the candidate websites to learn more about each candidate. We now invite both candidates to make a closing statement. So we will start with Councilmember Abe-Koga, whenever you're ready.
Thank you again for this opportunity to speak with all of you. As I mentioned, I have had extensive experience, almost 2 decades in elected office, and I've been in the public policy, public service arena for more than 3 decades now. I was a legislative aide to Congresswoman Anna Eshoo, also district director for Assemblymember Lowe, in addition to my elected service. But it's really my lived experiences combined with that public policy experience, my lived experience as a daughter of immigrants, working mom of my two college-age daughters, breast cancer survivor, that really informs me and really makes me want to serve at the county, because a lot of those issues that the county deals with are very personal to me. I hope that I was able to share that climate change is an absolute priority. It's personal, and I will continue to work hard to fight and combat climate change with all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, Sally Lieber, please go ahead with your closing statement.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate this forum taking place. It's very, very important. What I bring to this race, and I hope to the Board of Supervisors, is really lengthy experience that includes having served at the state level. The primary responsibility of the counties is to carry out state legislation. And having served in the state legislature and had that responsibility, and especially being a part of leadership during what was then one of the worst budget crises in California history, has taught me so much about what we need to do in terms of the safety net, and also in terms of policies to stop climate change and to deal with the impacts that are already here. And so I look forward to using that extensive experience on the Santa Clara County Board of Supervisors.
Thank you. And thank you for both candidates for participating in this forum. Now we will be transitioning to the District 2 forum.
Thank you. Take care. Bye.
Good evening. My name is Celine Sins, and I'm part of the San Jose team with Silicon Valley Youth Climate Action. I'll be your moderator for District 2 Forum. District 2 represents downtown and East San Jose. For this forum, the District 2 candidates will have up to 2 minutes for introduction, up to 2 minutes to answer the questions, and up to 1 minute to make the closing statement. We will also have time for questions from the audience. There is one District 2 candidate with us this evening, Betty Duong. The other candidate, Madison Nguyen, was contacted but was unable to make the forum. We will first start with a 2-minute intro. Good evening, Betty Duong. We invite you to introduce yourself to the forum and share a bit about your vision for our community. You will have up to 2 minutes. Please begin with your name and pronouns.
Hi there, my name is Betty Young and my pronouns are she, her. I'm trying to turn my camera on, but it says that the host is not allowing me to. Hello?
Yes, thank you so much for informing us. Monica, are you able to make them a co-host? Perfect.
Yeah, I think it should work now.
Hi, can you see me? I can't tell if I can see myself or not. Hello?
Yes.
Yeah, it's working
Hi,
now.
here we go. I can see everybody now. Hi. Hi, everyone. My name is Betty Young. I am a first-time candidate for Santa Clara County Supervisor, District 2, a district that I was born and raised in and still living here and raising my family. I may be a first-time candidate, but I have 11 years of experience working at the county organization, and I have worked at almost every level of the county operation, from direct services, launching new programs, new offices, new departments, also serving in the Emergency Operations Center at the front lines of COVID-19 during the pandemic, and with my last major project at the county being the project manager for the construction of our newest health center. I say all this to say that I understand how the county operates. I know how to plan, how to budget, and how to move things. I've done all of this for the last decade plus as a county employee. Not as an elected, not as a supervisor, not as an executive leader at all, but more as middle management, taking charge of very special projects at the county. That's to say, I know how to collaborate, I know how to move things, and I really enjoy cross-departmental, cross-agency, cross political, socioeconomic projects that allows me to bring people to the table, especially voices that haven't been heard before, which is a big reason why I'm so happy to be here to hear, really to learn about the youth perspective on a very pressing issue, our planet and our future of being able to live and breathe clean air and have access to clean water, have access to be able to live in livable conditions. So thank you so much for having me. I'm running to address homelessness, create more affordable housing opportunities, and advance public safety as my primary platforms. Encompassing all of this is to build a county that works for everyone. Thank you so much, and I look forward to sharing more about myself in today's forum.
Thank you for your introduction. Okay, so due to the high environmental costs of personal vehicles, public transportation is important to reduce GHG emissions. What are your plans to promote the ridership on the county's transit options such as Caltrain, BART, VTA buses, and light rail? Whenever you're ready, please begin.
I am very proud to have the sole endorsement of the League of Conservation Voters, who have been huge champions and continue to be huge champions for public transportation, mass transportation. And I know that in conversations with them, with my stakeholders, and also with my work at the county, that we really need a complete narrative change and cultural shift in how we deal, how we think of public transportation, how we access transportation. So this cultural shift in narrative needs to happen from both ends, from ridership and from those who are providing these services. I grew up in a family that was dependent on public transportation by necessity, not by choice. We didn't have a car of our own for a very long time. Well, what felt like a long time when I was a kid. So the thing is that our system currently has a lot of room for improvement. I know that our system is far more advanced than other places in the country, but that's not good enough for us here in Silicon Valley. We need to build out a system that actually respects poor people's time. We can't expect people to hop on a light rail on East Side to go to their job in downtown, but require them to be on that train for an hour to circumvent the whole Silicon Valley or San Jose before coming to their downtown location. That's not effective, which is why I'm so excited that we've already broken ground on major significant projects. We are expanding light rail, connecting BART and Milpitas to the Eastridge Mall station, and then having BART expand through downtown San Jose, through Santa Clara, through a tunnel underground. This is going to be able to create greater accessibility, and that's where we also make opportunities for people to ride BTA, ride BART, ride Caltrain for free. I think that's the best way to choose to juice people to this and let them have the opportunity to restructure their lives to be able to rely and depend on public transportation. So children should have free passes. Elders and seniors should have free passes. Commuter passes should be provided at a discount. Foster youth and youth who rely on our county systems should all have free passes to rely on public transportation to start that seed.
Thank you. We will now move on to our next section. Given the ambitious GHG reduction targets set by Santa Clara County cities such as San Jose, how would you support the county and its cities to achieve their targets?
Well, the biggest investment, the biggest way, the first major step is to really invest in mass transportation, to invest in also electrical power as a source, away from fossil fuels. And when you say, how would we support the county and cities achieve its targets? The county really has jurisdiction in unincorporated county. A lot of people recognize that. It always has been received as a barrier to being able to influence cities. I don't see that as an impediment at all. Santa Clara County has a history of setting a standard. What we can do with our jurisdiction, which is much more far-reaching, maybe not as dense because we have authority in unincorporated county pockets, being able to say, hey, we've created the model policy. We've been able to create a plan that works for a county. And a lot of the times, like the development is what takes the most investment. Development is development of a plan, studying of a plan, of a launch, of strategy is usually what costs the most. Now, if the county did that for the cities and we just rethought our approach in that way, we could build something that doesn't, like a plan to be able to achieve these targets, not just for the county, but something that could be taken off the shelf and implemented by cities in their own jurisdictions too. That's the approach that I would go about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, as our next question is, as a county supervisor, how would you promote the transition from natural gas to clean electricity in buildings throughout the county? Whenever you're ready.
Thank you. We are already starting that. So in my introduction, I did briefly mention that I was the project manager for the construction of our newest health center. That newest health center is the Vietnamese American Service Center on Tully and Center Road in the heart of East San Jose of Little Saigon. And it was the first county building to be Silver LEED certified. And when you're the first, it doesn't mean you're going to be the last. We've done it, and I want to build more. We're going to be retrofitting and basically in the next decade, a lot of federal funds are going to be coming because it's required by law to retrofit our health and hospital system. That's a lot of buildings. That's a lot of campuses. When we retrofit them, it's not just putting up some new walls or a new paint job. It's making sure they're seismic retrofitted to be able to withstand earthquakes. It also means that we have the opportunity to reimagine our spaces of health, redesign the floor plan, re-engineer the building so that we transition as much as possible away from natural gas to clean energy. And with the Vietnamese American Service Center, when we built that, not only did it become the first silver LEED certified building, we were also part of the first buildings at the county to install solar panels. We're part of that first tranche of solar panel installations. I can't believe it's taken this long for us to get here, but it was every opportunity that we have to put shovels into the ground is another opportunity to transition away from natural gas. And there's a lot of that coming in the next 10 years. It's going to require a supervisor who understands building, construction, capital projects to be able to make sure that we set the right policies, hold our staff to these commitments, and make sure that all of our new buildings are built in a way that's going to be as compatible as possible with natural energy, clean energy, and with our future for a safer and more resilient climate.
Okay, thank you. Our next section is, since youth have a high stake in climate issues, how do you plan to work with and involve youth in achieving the county's and your climate priorities? Whenever you're ready.
Thank you. I want to just mention something very briefly, kind of unrelated, but I swear I think it is related. I'll get to it. So one of my biggest achievements, my sources of pride at the County of Santa Clara, was supporting the development of the Hub Foster Youth Resource Center. It's a brand new build. It's a resource center, community center, cultural center, arts center for former and current foster youth. And this project actually started in 2013. When I came to the county in 2013, during my first month of work, I met with our current and former foster youth at the then existing Hub Foster Youth Resource Center, which was rented space in an office building. And what this youth had said is that we want our own center that we helped co-design, co-facilitate, co-build with you. I brought that back to my stakeholders, to my bosses, to my Supervisor Chavez, and 11 years fast forward, we put shovels into the ground last year. We're going to have the grand opening in January. And this is going to be a facility that is truly designed with youth, by youth, for youth. I bring that up as an example of how I approach my projects at the county. Same thing with the county, with the health center that I mentioned earlier. That was constructed. Construction took 2 years, but we put shovels in the ground after an 8-year community engagement process. So with this experience in mind, it's something that I joyfully do. I find great satisfaction in being able to launch empathetic design principles, meaning that any policies that I put forth in the county as a supervisor, any projects that I launch for construction or development will involve those most impacted by the end result. And I think that's the best way to build things. That's the best way to launch programs and design services through empathetic design. That's how we know it's going to work. Now, with involving youth and achieving the county's and the county's climate priorities is that there is a youth commission. And I think we should have a separate youth climate commission if there are willing participants to be able to join us in creation of that commission, and creating more formal channels that allow youth to have a voice in the stake in the development of our processes and plans.
Thank you. So our next section is, given the recent heat waves, What are your ideas on how to increase the county's resilience towards climate change fueled natural disasters such as heat waves, wildfires, floods, and droughts? Whenever you're ready.
Oh my God, there's so much to do. Putting back into the earth what we've taken out of it is it's a multi-pronged approach, and that's going to be one of the most immediate things we have to do. I'm endorsed by the County Fire Association, also the City Fire Association, and what they tell me constantly is that they had a report to the Board of Supervisors last year that basically used the terms unprecedented fire and destruction. And so if you ask the fire department, climate change is very real, and that we need to do something not just because of the heat waves, but because of the increased risk to fires that's happening and really ravaging our hillsides and our local communities here in Santa Clara County. So putting back into the ground what would be taken out of it, making sure that the tools that we use to take out dry vegetation is not going to accidentally spark a fire. There's a lot of conversations at the county regarding that right now. For example, the argument between the use of pesticides and the use of giant tractor lawnmowers. What's going to be more damaging to the environment, and what's going to cause a higher potential fire danger. So really being good stewards of our existing natural resources, and the county having the county parks department. Our parks department is different from city parks department because we consider ourselves gateways to nature and being able to preserve that. So preserving our parkland, preserving our open space, agricultural land, making sure, really promoting through the food systems work plan as well, that we are reducing our carbon emissions, our carbon footprint by really taking composting and also local agricultural practices really to be much more earth friendly and much more conservation friendly. So being able to train people in how to do that, being able to implement those policies and creating the benefits for local agricultural farmers to be able to implement much more eco-friendly practices. I know I'm running out of time, but it's how we plant, how we grow, how we maintain, how we distribute our resources in a way that's not going to cause more harm to the earth.
Thank you. So now we'll have time for a couple audience questions. Our first question comes from Cynthia Fan, and her question is, have you looked at the ongoing artificial turf ordinance proposal that will be coming from the SCCBOS in January? What are your thoughts on artificial turf use on a few county properties?
Thank you for that question. I support the ban on artificial turf. So I think the bigger issue here is how we roll out that ban. As a county supervisor, you are taking care of everybody. And the thing is that we have a lot of county properties right now that's currently, I wouldn't say a lot. We do have a handful of county properties that's currently using artificial turf. And for us to be able to transition from that to natural grass is going to be part of an equity discussion, right? There's going to be certain vendors and certain operators who can't afford to do that. And then so the county is going to have to be able to help in that transition. Additionally, when we have natural grass, which is preferable over artificial turf, there's going to be we have to make sure that the maintenance is there. And what we have found historically, because I am trying to represent D2, a community that I've always lived in, D2 is the low income district of the county. It's the poorest district in the county. It's also the district that has the highest need in the county. A lot of our parks, a lot of our open spaces in this side of town are left unmaintained and left unattended. I want to give these spaces, I want to give our community natural grass. I also want to make sure that it has to be maintained. And as supervisor, I'm going to direct, and hopefully my future colleagues on the board, you've heard from District 5 supervisorial candidates, are going to also be aligned with me in making sure that we have the right investments, not just to transition from artificial turf to natural grass, but that we have the resources and the commitment to maintain these new natural grass landscapes in a way that's going to be beautiful and usable for our community, because so much of it is left unattended and dilapidated right now.
Okay, thank you. So our second question is for Marshall Wood Mancy. Betty, how will you go about collaborating with your colleagues and county and community leaders to secure free mass transit access for youth and seniors? What will be your strategy to complete this monumental project?
First things first, get everybody to the table. I think that, just identifying the most vulnerable populations first, and this priority, this what you call a monumental initiative, is that the county's defined mission is to care for the most vulnerable communities. We do that by providing and tending to and strengthening a safety net of services and resources related to housing insecurity, food insecurity, the foster care system, we run that, the jail, the incarceration system, we run that at the county. CalFresh, CalWorks, these are all programs that make sure people on the verge of homelessness or living in poverty are able to continue to survive. And then also investment into programs that allow them to thrive. That's the continuum of care at the county organization. We do that through also providing free health services, healthcare, provide senior services, all of that. All of the services that we do, all of the programs that we provide, the safety net that we tend and care for is going to require public transportation. It's going to require dependable, reliable transportation. Gone are the days that we can design services and build programs assuming people can just hop in an Uber or assuming people have reliable transportation of their own. We can't, that's an assumption based on our own privileges that we have to acknowledge and address. So to me, it's a very natural fit. How would I rally my colleagues and how would I rally my community partners? By putting our mission front and center first and sitting around the table with the Office of Budget Analysis, with our number crunchers at the county, find out first what is the price tag for this type of investment. It's not an infinite number of people we're trying to serve. Let's start with the children that's in our foster care system, who is in our care and custody. They're our kids. So we are their parents already. The families that rely on us for CalFresh, for food services and food insecurities, the families that rely on us for Measure A housing, affordable housing. These are all people that we have already taken care of. And this is the last, I think, not the last, but one of the critical pieces that we need to add to that. Thank you, Marshall.
Thanks. Our third question is from Linda Hutchins Noel. As a parent of 2 teens, I was happy to hear you mention protecting clean air and clean water in your intro. Given that the Earthquake Soccer Organization proposes to build many soccer fields on the old county fairgrounds, what is your perspective on whether or not the Earthquakes should be required to use the safest and most environmentally friendly surface, natural grass, rather than plastic grass? Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, so we can make that demand and we have to have those conversations with them. The earthquakes are going to be building on the fairgrounds, and I'm very excited about that. Chiefly for the reason that it's going to add economic development to a very low income, a very severely impacted area in the district. It's the Little Saigon, Seven Trees, Center Road area, and this is a place that needs that help, that injection of economic development. On top of that, we require them as part of the deal that if you want to build your training facility here, you also have to build soccer fields for community use. So I just want to make that very clear. My friends, especially my young friends here, is that that's part of the governance that we get to do, right? When we have public-private partnerships like this, using public resources, lending it to our private partners, we get to say, hey, this is the expectation that comes with it. So they're going to be building fields for just community use alone. And essentially those community fields are going to have to be, they're going to have to be planted with natural grass. That's going to be the requirement that we have there. So I'm excited about the earthquakes. We're also going to have the National Cricket Association come into. That conversation is not final yet, but having the National Cricket Association come in means that in building a stadium, again, with natural grass, we're going to be able to not just make our commitment, fulfill our commitment to a better climate future, but also economic development and bringing in world-class international level, competition level sporting events to a very impacted part of San Jose, of Santa Clara County. So economic development, good stewardship of the environment, and just having a lot more fun activities for our local community members. Again, the cricket fields, part of the negotiations with the Cricket Association is that when you build this cricket stadium, when you're not playing, when you're not in tournament play, you have to lend these fields up for community reservations to be able to also enjoy the resources that the county has invested in. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your input. Our next question is from S.E. Hinton. As you know, the state of California has filed a lawsuit against ExxonMobil for misstatements about plastics recycling, and public harms of microplastics and chemicals added to plastics. How would you approach the scourge of plastic buildup and zero waste goals?
How would I, sorry, can you repeat that? How would I what? Just the last portion.
How would you approach the scourge of plastic buildup and zero waste goals?
And schools. So that would be a partnership with the County Board of Education and also the corresponding local school districts. The county of Santa Clara, even though we have a lot of latitude and leeway, we are not able to set policies for school districts on school property. We're able to influence it. And usually that influence comes in ways where it's through funding or through policymaking and partnerships. But usually it's through funding relationships where we agree to invest into this new initiative that helps to promote less use of plastics. I'm just saying as an example, that's where we're able to address this problem by becoming partners to the school. And so so there's that through a funding relationship. And then secondly, through the partnership between colleagues, fellow electeds who want the same thing. So working with the Board of Education, working with our local school districts and District 2, that's where I'm going to have the most opportunity as your potentially your next District 2 supervisor, and being able to engage you all in the audience and a part of this organization to see what strategies actually are effective when it comes to young people in school settings. We could start with how we purchase supplies for schools, how we can subsidize purchases of materials and supplies that are made with an eco-friendly stamp of approval. And then in terms of like behaviors, because this really comes down to the behavior, the individual behavior, what we're consuming. Are we carrying our own water bottles to school? Are we using reusable materials or containers? Are we using single-use disposable items, and being able to like vet that out of the supply chain, but also then augment the behaviors of individuals? That's going to be a procurement and contracting item initiative. Is also going to be a campaign for the hearts and minds of our youngest minds to be able to change their behavior in that way. So I would say, great question. That's what's off the top of my head, how we can set up that partnership, but that's going to be a very worthy endeavor. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. S.E. Hinton's second question is, as you know, the state of California has filed a lawsuit against ExxonMobil for misstatements about plastics recycling and public harms of microplastics and chemicals added to plastics. How would you approach the scourge of plastic buildup and zero waste goals?
I think that's the same question, Celine.
Yes.
The last question from S.E. Hinton was like, it's like he meant zero waste, not school. So I'm just repeating the question.
Oh, I see. Zero. Oh, I thought you said schools. Okay. Did you zero? So, okay, sorry. I could you say that question? I guess I shouldn't have stopped you. Can you say that question again? So not in schools. Zero waste.
Zero waste goals.
Zero waste goals. Oh, okay, I heard schools. Okay, thank you. I think well, my misunderstanding or mishearing of the question just opened up a new potential avenue for being able to get closer to our goals of zero waste. I really appreciate that the city of San Jose has a plastic bag ban, and I think we can look more for opportunities where things are unnecessarily damaging our environment, where these bans can come into place. In terms of zero waste, I know I mentioned the food systems work plan. I highly encourage you all to check that out. It's even though it's related to food, it really ties environmental stewardship with food sustainability and being able to have a local supply chain of food and food production and food distribution that actually takes into account zero waste strategies for the world through composting, the use of recycled materials and materials that has more than one single use. And so that's a big chunk of it. And then in terms of zero waste, I think we have to look at the environment that we're in. For example, at the County of Santa Clara, we have to look at ourselves and our office buildings, our health and hospital systems, and also in our public safety divisions where we are going out into the world and being able to run a 24,000 employee, $12 billion annual budgeted organization where we can reduce our waste and achieve zero waste first, and being able to implement that, share those policies for our cities to start. So I would say start first with ourselves, our buildings, our practices, our construction, being able to lend those policies as a model to our city partners, and then start from there before we go into the homes of people with mandates. But first, we have to be able to set a good example and be able to share that with everybody.
Thank you. So unfortunately, we are out of time, so we will move on to our closing statement. Thank you, Betty Duong. Thank you, everyone. That includes the question portion for District 2. Shown on the screen is Betty Duong's campaign website. We now invite you to make a closing statement. Betty Duong, please go ahead.
Thank you, everyone, for this opportunity to speak with you today. I am so inspired and encouraged by your involvement and also your leadership in this space and holding our electeds and our candidates accountable to climate change priorities, to earth-friendly priorities in the future. One thing that I want to use my closing statement time for is to share with you a huge environmental justice project that I've been a part of for a very long time that I need to, that's one of the chief priority goals in my administration, should I be elected, is the closure of Reed Hillview Airport. Reed Hillview Airport is in the heart of East San Jose. It's over 110 acres, and it's a small recreational airport that's right next to schools, right next to homes, right next to the most densely populated portion of our district. It's also a district, this neighborhood that surrounds Reed Hillview Airport. It's right off of Tully, across from East Ridge Mall. For all those who are my East Side folks here or have loved ones or families and friends in East Side, you know that that's where our communities of color reside. That's where our low-income communities are extremely densely populated multi-generational families, with all these planes raining lead down on our environment and our family members and our community members every single day. We have a chance to shut down this airport by 2031 and an opportunity to reimagine what this 110 plus acres of land can look like. Green space, natural gas, urban gardens, solar panels. So I hope that you all will look into this project, look into this initiative, and please join me as a partner in this. Thank you.
Thank you, Betty Duong, for participating in this forum. Now we will transition to voting information. The November 5th election is approaching soon. In California, ballots will be mailed to all registered voters beginning the week of October 6th. In addition to choices for Santa Clara Board of Supervisors, District 2 and 5, voters in many cities in the county will see candidates for local school boards, California State Assembly, U.S. Representative, U.S. Senator, and all voters will see candidates for U.S. President and Vice President. There will also be a local ballot measures and 10 state ballot measures. Please make your voting plan and participate in the decision-making process. You can either to mail your ballot anytime on or before November 5th. You can take it in conveniently located drop box, or you can vote in person to going to votesantaclaracounty.gov/home and finding a location near you. Thank you to the candidates for sharing your positions on these critical topics. Thank you again to our promotional partners and all who attended. Please vote by or on November 5th. This concludes our Santa Clara County Climate Candidate Forum, organized by Silicon Valley Youth Climate Action. We hope you had a great evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Monica, do you want to end the Facebook Live?
Yeah, I think it should be over now, right?